This is the Water Quality Association podcast.
Is the Healthy H2O Act, which is a candidate again for that Farm Bill package. And that's one where we've been very excited this year to see the win that it was reintroduced on a bipartisan and bicameral basis yet again. We've driven a lot of bipartisan support behind that bill, and we feel it's in a very good position with the Agriculture Committee and other stakeholders that are important to making sure it once and for all gets across the finish line.
That's Ted Mondloch with Current Strategies, WQA's lobbyist firm in Washington. And welcome to the podcast from the Water Quality Association, the leading voice of the residential, commercial, and industrial water treatment community. I'm Wes Bleed. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and leave a comment and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a show. We'd also love to have you join us on YouTube so you can both see as well as hear our guests. In this episode of the WQA podcast, we check in with Ted Mondloch, Vice President of Current Strategies in Washington, D.C. Ted gives us an inside look at what's been happening on Capitol Hill over 2025, from PFAS regulations to the future of the Healthy H2O Act and what the coming election year might mean for progress on key water treatment issues. Plus, we'll have our WQA tip. It's all coming up on the Water Quality Association podcast. Ted Mondloch, Current Strategies Vice President in Washington, D.C., is our guest today. Current Strategies is WQA's lobbying and public affairs firm in D.C., and we're glad to have Ted as the account lead for WQA, and he's worked in water-related issues, water quality, water treatment, water reuse and reclamation and everything else in between for many years now. And so, Ted, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks for joining us to give us a government affairs update for WQA.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. It's a pleasure to be here today. It's a busy time in Washington, so happy to report out to the membership.
And, the good news is we are recording this after the government has reopened. So we're excited about that. I guess you could call it being excited, right? It's always good to have the government functioning as it's supposed to. Give us a sense of how the year has gone. We wanted to get just, pretty much a year in review, if you will, from the water space and any other tidbits you want to throw in.
Yeah, absolutely, Wes. You hit it right on the nose with the government shutdown. I think everyone's very excited for that to be resolved. Having Congress kind of being more in their regular order is so beneficial to everything that we do here in Washington. The year in review, though, it's been certainly a different year than a unique year. One that has had a lot of ups and downs. Certainly. The activities in Congress and in federal agencies have been all over the news. I'd say one of the things that really characterized this year, and thinking of this more from a regulatory standpoint, is just coming into it and seeing that there was so much uncertainty with where the energy would go in terms of water quality regulations. From a macro perspective, we saw on the campaign trail the Trump campaign and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin coming into this administration were staunchly focused on taking a deregulatory approach, and that was something that generated a lot of uncertainty when we think about our water quality regulations, especially at a time when we saw the Biden administration's EPA set forth far more stringent and really scaling up those regulations that are relevant to the water quality industry. Thinking about things like the establishment of the first primary drinking water standard for PFAS, as well as the lead and copper rule improvements, or LCRI, which really set very fast timelines, faster than were on the books before for lead service line and replacement. And all that goes alongside of that with filtration and in the interim. So that for the industry, I think it was a surprise to some, and likely a welcome one for many in the industry, that the Zeldin EPA over the past few months has sort of indicated that they're going to keep a lot of those regulations in place. It shows that, there's going to be some, changes in the details, right, in terms of implementation and such. But it shows a bipartisan commitment to increasing these quality regulations and filtering out things like PFAS and ensuring lead service lines are replaced. I think that gives good direction for the industry in terms of where investments will need to be made, where innovations will need to be driven. And it's also just really important for lawmakers to see that as well. And then, write funding bills and other pieces of legislation that sort of fit that paradigm that we're moving the ball forward on these kinds of regulations. So that's on the regulatory side. One of the bigger surprises and bigger things that really set the stage for 2025. On the legislative side, we alluded to it when we're talking about the government shutdown that just wrapped up, about 12 hours ago at the time of this recording, right? And that's been that past month of that shutdown dynamic has really been a microcosm of what this whole year has been. We've seen from the get-go, we saw, the first several months taken all the energy out of the room was the reconciliation package, which was, the legislative vehicle that contained most of President Trump's priorities, and the Republicans got it across the finish line this summer. So there was not much else, going across the finish line in Congress over those first several months. It was the main point of engagement. So that sort of, and a lot of chaos came along with that as well. So that sort of energy sucking large package right off the bat of a Congress was a bit unique. What we see now is, the opportunity to return more towards that regular order of Congress. There's several packages that, are likely to be considered in the next year or so. That includes the Farm Bill. That includes a package to reauthorize the EPA water infrastructure programs that were advanced in the IIJA 5 years ago and have not been revisited since, and many other items. One smaller piece of legislation, big legislation for us, smaller in terms of legislative packages moving around the Hill, is the Healthy H2O Act, which is a candidate again for that Farm Bill package. And that's one where we've been very excited this year to see the win that it was reintroduced on a bipartisan and bicameral basis yet again. We've driven a lot of bipartisan support behind that bill, and we feel it's in a very good position with the Agriculture Committee and other stakeholders that are important to making sure it once and for all gets across the finish line. So that's where one of the biggest wins we've seen, and that's kind of my characterization of 2025 so far. Lots more to come, though.
Right. So there was some uncertainty that really didn't net out the negatives that perhaps some people had feared. And then as well, some progress that was made, specifically in the area of WQA's Healthy H2O Act. And just to clarify, I thought there might have been some talk at one time about removing that from the Farm Bill, and now you're saying it is part of the Farm Bill?
We're looking at right now that the, in conversation with those on the Hill, that the Farm Bill, as it stands right now, it's not released yet, but they have a Farm Bill sort of sitting there waiting. They have their different proposals for it. The Healthy H2O Act is in a very, very good position to be included in whatever version of the Farm Bill moves forward. It's just a matter of a Farm Bill moving forward, frankly. And that's been something that's been a frustration over the past 2.5, 3 years, that there's so many other parts of that legislative vehicle that hold it up from moving across the finish line. We're in this friendlier title of the Farm Bill. It's the Rural Development title, where there's a lot of bipartisan agreement, and there's agreement on our bill. It's just a matter of getting the whole thing moving. That's been the holdup in recent years.
So I think I know the answer to this, but just in general, what has been the reception of WQA's voice and issues on Capitol Hill?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks. I'm glad you asked that. It's been, I don't know that it's a this year thing necessarily, that it's been a change, but really over my entire time working with WQA, there's been an incredibly positive reception for the association and for its members. When we're thinking about the fly-in that many of the members come into DC and participate in. And I think that's for a lot of reasons. The congressional staff and the members themselves really, really appreciate an organization like WQA comes in and provides unbiased expertise. It's not every meeting that they have that they get the opportunity to talk to true experts on, both the industry itself, the chemistry, all of the details that are far outside of, their grasp on a day-to-day basis when they're going through so many different issues. The average congressional staffer is focused on 5 to 10 policy areas. There's no way, no matter how smart they are, most of them, if not all of them, are very, very smart and highly educated people, but they just don't have the time to dig into our issues as much as they would perhaps like to. So being able to talk to that voice is critical for them. And, it's also great because the association and the members are a part of the solution to many of the problems that the congressional members and their staff are facing when they talk to their constituents about water quality. They hear from utilities about PFAS regulations coming down the pike and how can we possibly filter out this contaminant. But we can tell them that the industry is working towards those innovations that will get us there. Same thing with all of the other issues that come across their desk. WQA tends to be in that solutions-oriented position to help them out. So I think that's besides the fact that you all are very nice people, that's the main reasons why you get such a good reception on Capitol Hill.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's always good to hear. No, I appreciate that. Hey, I thought maybe, Ted, we should go back for a second because it did strike me that I mentioned Healthy H2O. We kind of said, positive things about it, and then we moved on. Well, the reality is somebody listening or watching this may not have as much background on Healthy H2O because it's been around for a few years. We've been, dealing with it, trying to get it introduced, trying to get it passed, moving on the process. And we know from past discussions that it is a process. It's a process that can take 4 to 6 years, typically, for any piece of legislation. But just in general, recap that for us and just make sure members understand what it is that WQA is trying to do.
Absolutely, yeah. So the Healthy H2O Act seeks to really solve the problem that there's over 43 million Americans that get their drinking water from a private well. That's not the problem. The problem is that there are no regulations for private well water quality, and there are very limited resources available, especially at the federal level, for something like testing your well, testing the quality of your water, and making sure that you have access and education about the water quality solutions that are available to you if you do have a contaminant of concern in your drinking water. So the bill seeks to create a new USDA program, a grant program that would provide sort of that income and rural area sort of needs tested assistance to households that are in that situation, that have a private well or are on a small community water system and want to understand more about their water quality. They can get testing and filtration as deemed appropriate. The bill would fold into a suite of other programs that are operated out of USDA's rural development sort of subgroup. And there's a lot of things in there right now that are tailored towards small rural community water infrastructure. But this is a gap. It's a gap that we're seeking to fill. There are very limited resources available for this purpose. And because of that, that's another reason we've had such a positive reception when we're talking about this bill. Everyone likes it once they learn about it because every state has a varying percentages, but a large number of people that are on private wells and could benefit from something like this.
Ted, 2026 is going to be an election year, and I know that oftentimes elections are seen as dead zones when it comes to major legislation. So what's realistic to expect in 2026? Do you think we can move the ball forward on Healthy H2O or other water-related issues, or will the politics simply get in the way?
It's an important question when you think about the priorities that are around the corner. It almost feels like we're in an election year all the time lately. To me, that might just be me, but it's certainly a huge priority of these lawmakers to sort of year-round be campaigning, but it really ramps up in those last few months. You also have, importantly, an August recess that, unless there's some big reason why they have to cancel it or shorten it, that's a month that they're out. In an election year, they're not typically in DC very often in October. So you just look at the calendar and you see so many fewer days than actually appear to be there at first glance. And the priorities or the energy behind the priorities does tend to lessen in those months leading up to the election, even when they're in DC. But I will say that I think there's far more getting done in these election years than meets the eye necessarily. The members of Congress and their staff, while they're not passing bills in those months, or perhaps even several months leading back towards the summer and the spring, they're really in the weeds and in the trenches, focused on writing legislation, having sort of pre-negotiations and things of that nature. And in fact, you see a ton of legislation get actually passed due to that pre-work right after the election, and what we call in DC the lame duck period. I don't know if we've generated a better term for that period yet, but those 2 months after the election, you tend to see a whirlwind of friendship and agreement amongst these lawmakers who, for months before, were a little bit more antagonistic towards each other. I saw recently that in one of the most recent Congresses, the 116th Congress, we're in the 119th right now, the 116th Congress saw 44% of all the bills it passed over that 2-year period came in those final 2 months after the elections. So it's a big time for negotiations and compromise and getting things right out the door. Also, a trend that debunks the idea that nobody is doing anything in those election years is that actually more bills are passed in the second year of those of the 2-year Congress than the first, and the second year is the one that includes the election. That could be for a variety of reasons. This year, I really expect that to be the case because, as I was alluding to earlier, we had reconciliation, then we had the shutdown, and now we're moving more towards regular order. So I'm optimistic about that. And in terms of the bills that we could see across the finish line, I really am hopeful on the Farm Bill and more optimistic on that than I have been in years past. But a really important legislative package, in addition to the Farm Bill, which covers USDA programs, is this reauthorization of the EPA water infrastructure programs. So dating back to 2021, when the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA, or infrastructure law, it has many names, was passed, that was the last time all of the assistance programs at EPA were reauthorized, meaning that the amount of spending and the rules that go along with the program were revisited and changed. And there was also direct appropriations, $50 billion of injection of investment into those programs came in the IIJA. That's all expiring in the 5th year of that bill's sort of long tail. So next year, the congressional leaders in the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, on the House side, and 2 other committees that cover drinking water and wastewater, they're going to be working hard starting December, January, and onward on putting together a package that can change the rules for those programs, that can change the amount of money that they're able to be appropriated each year, and can also they could also provide significant direct appropriations. I'm not sure if they will do that, but that is all an opportunity for folks to engage, especially when you think about the PFAS and lead/LCRI discussion, where there's a big place for the water quality industry to be involved. So those are the packages that I think will move, but I'm optimistic that things will actually get done next year.
Oh, that's so encouraging. Well, what do you think WQA members should be doing? Obviously focused on things like the fly-in.
Yep.
But are there other opportunities, do you think, or ways in which we can be supportive of your efforts, you and May and the rest of the team at Current Strategies?
Absolutely. I mean, the number one thing I always tell people is just simply to get involved. And that obviously is a simple answer. There's a lot more detail that goes into that. Easy is not maybe not the right word, but a good way to get involved is to join the fly-in, like you mentioned, Wes. That's an excellent opportunity to come to DC in April when we're right in the crux of so many important policy discussions, to meet and engage with your members of Congress and their staff in person, to tell your story, to provide them the expertise that they're not able to get on a day-to-day basis, unless they happen to be meeting with the WQA team in DC or myself. But I don't think I can do as good of a job with the expertise as you all, the members, can do with what you're experiencing in the day-to-day work with your companies. that is critical. It's also a great opportunity to engage peer-to-peer with other members, and you get to meet me, and you get to enjoy some springtime weather in DC. Those are not as important as the others, but that's a critical way to get engaged. And I think just in general, even if you can't make it that April week, or excuse me, it's going to be May this year, that May week, you don't need to be a federal lobbyist to be engaged in the policymaking process in Washington. Even just 1, 2, or 3 touch points per year with your lawmakers and their staff on the issues that matter most to water quality policy, that's enough for them to hear you, to remember you, and to learn a lot more about what they should be focusing on than they would if you don't engage with them. And it can even be an email, it can be a phone call. You don't need to travel to the city to make that happen. And then it's on us, the folks in DC, WQA and myself, to provide you all with those touch points. So that's something we're focused on, especially when we look at opportunities to engage on Healthy H2O in the coming year, as well as these EPA discussions that I was referencing before. We want to make sure that we're giving you all the tools to engage on more of a year-round basis, especially at key touch points. So I think that's important, but really telling your story to those folks in Washington, as is important in states and in the local governments that you all are also engaged in and on the receiving end of policy from, it's just as important to do in DC.
Right, and go to the website, WQA.org, check out the government affairs page, see what opportunities there are to get plugged in. I know many of the state and regional associations have their own fly-ins with their respective states, so that might be something you want to check out as well. Now, you mentioned, Ted, the fly-in will be in May. Do we have a date for that?
We have a month. No, we're very close to a date. We're looking at getting the best venue we can right now, which I'm very excited about, but more to come on that very soon.
Okay. And any final thoughts, Ted?
Well, I'm just excited that we don't get to say it directly to you all as much as we would like to. I'm just very excited that Current Strategies is a part of the team supporting the association. I've had a great time meeting many of you in DC, and I look forward to doing so again. And I just would love to leave you with the call to action to get involved and also be optimistic that what we do in Washington is important, and we still continue to have opportunities to really impact policy in a meaningful way. So those are my parting thoughts, and I'm just really grateful to have been on with you, Wes.
Well, we thank you for joining us, Ted. Thanks for being a part of the show and filling us in and giving us an update, not only where we have come from, but also looking ahead to 2026. Ted Mondloch, Current Strategies Vice President, WQA's lobbying and public affairs firm in Washington. Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Wes.
And now our WQA tip. Did you know that you can book your hotel room for the upcoming WQA 2026 WQA Convention and Expo in Miami Beach? Now, registration will open at a later date, but hotel booking can be performed online now by going to WQA.org/convention. Convention dates April 28th through the 30th, 2026. Again, it's in Miami Beach, Florida. We look forward to seeing you there. Learn more at WQA.org/convention. Thanks for joining us for the Water Quality Association podcast. Learn more about water and water filtration at our consumer website, betterwatertoday.org. And learn more about professional certification, the Gold Seal Product Certification Program, and how you can become a member at WQA.org.